new year, new you. Great chance for you to zhuzh up your LinkedIn profile. All caps disclaimer. I have no business or professional affiliation with LinkedIn. The knowledge that I'm going to drop on you today is purely based on over a decade of experience I bring as a talent acquisition leader. Again, I have no direct affiliation with LinkedIn. These are all based on my personal professional opinion. Let's get into it. So, your resume drops on the desk of a hiring manager, HR, or recruiting representative, and what is the first thing they do? They LinkedIn you. Yes, they are checking you out on LinkedIn and trying to get a different lens of your background. Today, I'm going to walk you through what is going through, what's in the back of the mind of the recruiter that's looking at your LinkedIn profile, and additionally, what are some things you can do to convert those views into interviews. So, a recruiter scans your LinkedIn profile, and here's how it goes. They're looking at the headline section, getting a general overview of who you are and what you've been doing. They're looking at your current position and trying to make sense of what would be the logical next step professionally. They're taking a look at that headshot. Who are you? What does it say about your demeanor and personality? This is all of the things that are going through a recruiter's mind when they're scanning your LinkedIn profile. To understand what it is you do, but some things that brand you or differentiate you from people in your field. For example, if you're scrolling on my LinkedIn profile, you wouldn't hear me say that I'm a recruiter. You'd hear me say something like, I'm a talent acquisition leader whose brand is all about candidate and hiring leader experience, leaning into actively listening and using great talent to level up organizations. I'm a brand. I'm not a recruiter. So again, continue to think of yourself as a brand and what are some of the things about you in your field or space that set you apart? Do you have specific certifications? Is it the years of experience? Have you worked in a variety of industries? Again, the way to think about this is when you're doom scrolling on your phone, what are some of the headlines that draw you in and make you want to hear and learn more? The same thing happens in the mind of a recruiter when they're wanting to get to know more about you. Your work experience. Your work experience would be best defined by not talking and making it sound like a job description, but really leaning into and calling out some key accomplishments using data and metrics and qualitative data to truly tell your story. Did you win a key account if you're a person who works in sales or business development? Are you responsible for a certain amount of revenue? Did you save the company a large sum of money? Is there a process improvement that you led? This is really talking about your ownership, your thought leadership, your creativity, your being a boss in terms of your field in the space that you work in. One of the things that grinds my teeth is when I'm looking at a resume or LinkedIn profile and the person's work history sounds like a job description. Your LinkedIn work history summary should be as unique as you. You're talking about specific ideas, thoughts, processes, and programs that you led and own, and talking about it in language that sounds exactly like that. You weren't a part of, you didn't coordinate. Where are places that you owned processes, programs, and thoughts to lead to results for your organization, and being able to call those out using metrics, data, and really being able to paint and color the story for someone scrolling through your LinkedIn profile. Fast fact, when people are looking at your LinkedIn profile, they're looking at it for 7 seconds. Can you imagine in that time, someone would have just looked at your LinkedIn profile? Make it count. Other things that draw your LinkedIn profile to the right hands of recruiters or hiring leaders is your ability to use the jargon or vernacular of the space that you work in. For example, if you work in sales, you might use terms like sales, accounts, business development, onboarding, revenue, talking about the industries or the portfolio of accounts that you have, your book of business, using literally the word sales. So again, one of the things how recruiters find you is they use in the search bar on LinkedIn, they're looking and using keywords. This language is what they're using to find you. So let's use the analogy of tonight. What's for dinner? You're thinking, Asian. Well, what particular type of Asian? Were you thinking of Vietnamese or Thai? You're plugging that into Google. Are you looking for a particular type of dish? Are you getting takeout? So you're looking for, is it DoorDash, Chow Now, that you're going to Grubhub, that you're going to get delivered by? How late is it open? How close is it to your house? You're using all different types of language to plug in your specific requirements for dinner tonight. Just the same thing that recruiters and hiring leaders are doing to find your type of talent. So making the language that you use count, but also not making it look like word salad, that this shouldn't just be a random dump of words, that it should be used the right way, trying not to repeat the same sentences, using language that makes sense. And another thing to veer from is being mindful that you're not using jargon that is so specific to your particular organization. For example, you work in sales, but your organization calls it Squirrel 45. No one's looking for Squirrel 45. Really make it specific to your field and space, universal language that will draw recruiters and hiring leaders into you and your background. So I know that people are split on this, but I am a big proponent of a headshot. Your headshot should be a professional headshot from your chest up that nicely frames your face. No distracting accessories like hats, too flamboyant of eyewear, clothes that are super distracting, that your face should really be the star. And another call out is no one else should be in the photo unless you work on a specific team and the team or organization is looking for work. It should really be you, and you should be the star. It should have great lighting, definitely a smile or facial expressions that express your personality. It should be on brand for who you are and what you're about. Poses and a type of photo that is authentic to who you are and your personality, because the purpose of the headshot on the LinkedIn profile is for a recruiter or hiring leader to get another lens on you in addition to the resume. In some fields and spaces, people don't have resumes. People will automatically divert to the LinkedIn profile. So let's make it count. The headshot, again, the way that I use it as a recruiter, just a little behind the scenes, is when I'm talking to a potential candidate and having my phone screen, I would pull up their LinkedIn profile to feel some connectivity to who they are and to maybe get another understanding or read of who they are, how they tick, outside of what I just see on the static paper. So again, that LinkedIn profile is another lens into you and your professional background. Red flags, the ick, whatever you want to call it, recruiters get it too. So here are some of the things that recruiters might keep scrolling and go on to the next profile. Here are some of the things. Word salad, that there's way too much language, way too much information or content, and it doesn't tell an easy story in 7 seconds that someone can make sense of. If someone is scrolling or looking in 7 seconds, they wanted to understand who you are, what you do in that amount of time. If they're having to wrinkle an eyebrow, read it again, then they're going to move on to the next person because you're not communicating concisely. Jumpy work experience with no explanation. If you'd have a position that you didn't spend a lot of time in, or companies that you weren't around for more than a year or just a year, recruiters want to make sense of an explanation. So it's okay to say, this was a contract engagement. This was a core project that I took on. This was all the same company, but we kept getting acquired. I took off to be a family caregiver. I was on a long-term maternity leave. I took a sabbatical. I took a mental health break. Whatever that looks like, if there are a little bit of jumpiness in your profile, recruiters want to be able to make sense of that and want to be able to literally mine the gap in terms of understanding what happened in between each position or what your trajectory looked like in terms of gaps or things that are unexplained. Too mysterious. If there's not enough information and people can't make sense of it, if it's literally a company and dates, then recruiters might move on because they can't really make sense of what you've been doing in terms of experience. While you don't have to have a full resume on LinkedIn, it's definitely helpful to have, again, those keywords in some language to talk about who you are, what you do, and what's next. And if recruiters can't make sense of that, then they might move on because they don't have enough information. Another hot button or red flag will be grammatical and spelling errors. It is 2026. There are tools like Grammarly, spell check, and even ChatGPT to make sure that your spelling, vocabulary, and grammar is correct. And just taking the time to have that level of detail and attention and meticulousness is what every person is looking for their next hire. And so you just taking the time to be thorough and do a nice review, even maybe getting a friend or family member to take a look at your LinkedIn profile and say, what do you think? Is just an extra step in terms of diligence that everyone will appreciate, including you. So yes, everyone is bound to mistakes, but there's just too much technology for your LinkedIn profile to look a mess. So taking the time to review it for grammar and spelling errors is just the extra step that you'll want to take on. If you're redoing your LinkedIn and giving it a zhuzh or makeover, here's the things that you want to walk away with, and here's an easy checklist.
Recruit E. Role, expertise, core skills, results, unique value, industry, tone, and energy.
What is it that you do well, and where are you going? Who are you speaking to your personality, any kind of accomplishments, your education, certification, relevant courses that you've taken, where you've worked, how long you've been there in terms of tenure. Anything that talks, LinkedIn even has a section about your hobbies or things that you're into. You're able to watch the kind of firms that you follow and show some of your other professional interests. What do you do well? Again, you will call this out in your work history and your headline, and being able to speak to this concisely and in an impactful way. What are you up to next, and what are you doing next? If your work history is written in such a way, recruiters and hiring leaders should be able to glean what would be the logical next step from a career progression standpoint, and being able to speak to that by the cues that you talk about in terms of your work experience so far, the previous positions you had, and that it should read like a professional ladder, and that you're stepping up and up and up, and the next logical position would make sense or bode to the positions you've already had. If you are opening LinkedIn now and getting excited about making sure your LinkedIn profile is optimized, don't be afraid to rewind, rewatch, and share to a friend. If you're wondering, you're stuck, and you're not sure if you're getting it right, please comment profile below, and I'm happy to talk through more tips and tricks to get you unstuck. As always, thanks so much for watching. It's the Recruit Report.